What if I told you that one of the most common ingredients in your kitchen might be slowly poisoning you? This is the story of how a waste product, an engine lubricant, has become one of the most common dietary oils in our diet, and how that could be contributing to the surge in chronic diseases that we've seen in the last century. To understand how we got here, we have to look back to history. Since the dawn of man, our ancestors used animal fats to cook with. But since the earlier 20th century, something drastic changed. Back in 1829, new advances in machinery made it possible for the first time to extract oil from cottonseeds, which is a waste product of cottonseed production. Originally, this oil was used for things like candles and lamps, but in 1911, Procter & Gamble introduced it as a food ingredient with the addition of Crisco. Crisco was essentially a crystallized cottonseed oil. It was marketed as a cleaner and healthier option to commonly used lard at the time. Procter & Gamble spent a whopping $5 million in today's equivalent currency to advertise it. Just the next year, in 1912, sales of Crisco amounted to £2.6 million. Crisco continued to go crazy in advertisements, and just 4 years later, in 1916, they were up to £60 million. This was one of the most successful and potentially deadly marketing campaigns in the history of America. It fundamentally changed how Americans cooked, and it would radically alter the future of our health forever. And interestingly, as the rates of vegetable oil consumption rose, so did heart disease. In 1912, the same year that Crisco sales really took off, was the first year that an accurate description of a heart attack appeared in a medical journal. You see, heart disease was actually a very rare condition before the 1900s or so, but by 1924, it had become such a concern that the American Heart Association was founded, which remained a small company for a few decades until 1948. The American Heart Association finally got its big break when Procter & Gamble, the makers of Crisco, designated the American Heart Association to receive the $1.7 million from Procter & Gamble's radio contest. That's the equivalent of $20 million in today's money. In 1961, the American Heart Association made a recommendation that would change our diets forever. They advised that everyone replace the saturated fats that are found in animal products with the polyunsaturated fats that are found in seed oils. This recommendation led to an explosion in the consumption of vegetable oils, as Dr. Chris Kenobi puts it.
And with that has come this explosion of overweight, obesity, and chronic disease. That makes seed oil consumption the single greatest change to the diet of mankind in all of history.
But how are these oils actually made? Because the process is anything but natural. Let's take corn oil, for example. There's so little oil in the ear of corn that it takes 98 ears to produce just 5 tablespoons of oil. The extraction process involves multiple steps, each potentially damaging to the oil. First, there's an acid wash at 80 Celsius or 176 Fahrenheit, then into a neutralization step up to 95 degrees C or 200 Fahrenheit. Third, we gotta bleach it, 90 to 110 C over 230 Fahrenheit. And last, we have to deodorize up to 260 C or over 500 Fahrenheit. By the end of that process, the oil is rancid and damaged. And that's why there is an intense deodorization process needed to mask the smell of the rancid and oxidized oil. The big problem with seed oils lies in the chemical structure of them. They are very high in polyunsaturated fats, especially linoleic acid, which is incredibly prone to oxidation. Oxidation is the same process that would turn an apple brown, but in oils, it creates free radicals and toxic byproducts like aldehydes. As our consumption of seed oils has increased, so have the rates of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. But is that just a coincidence? There are multiple studies which link high intake of seed oils with an increased risk of heart disease despite the fact that they do lower cholesterol. One particularly damning study is the Minnesota Coronary Survey. This study was conducted in the 1960s, but it was hidden for decades. And it found that people who replaced saturated fats with seed oils had a higher risk of death, especially in those over the age of 65. Well, if that's the case, why haven't we heard more about this? Well, that's because the edible oil industry is big business, $100 billion big business to be exact. There is a lot of money in keeping these oils in our food supply. I think that it's clear that when you look at history, you use some ancestral wisdom and the available science that we have, that these should never be in our food supply in the first place. The reason seed oils are so rampant today is because of some clever marketing that turned a leftover byproduct, an engine lubricant, into a quote-unquote heart-healthy option for Americans and the world. The problem is, the more we eat of these, the sicker we get, and the solution is right in front of our eyes. The solution is a return to nature, a return to animal fats, and to get rid of seed oils for good. So what can we do? The first thing is to be vigilant. If you turn a label over and the first ingredient you see is canola or soybean oil, that's not a food fit for consumption. Get rid of it. Do a pantry purge. Go into your cupboards right now and throw these in the garbage where they belong. Opt for nature's fats, butter, lard, tallow from properly raised animals, or the healthy plant fats like good quality olive oil, coconut oil, or even avocado oil. Thirdly, just try prioritizing real food. Eat more whole foods and cook at home. That means you're in control of exactly what's going on your plate and into your body. And last but not least, be very skeptical of the heart-healthy stamp of approval. It's clear that these are anything but. The science community has become corrupt from the inside out, and you need to take your power back. Avoid seed oil-laden snacks, and be careful because many of your favorite restaurants are using these toxic oils. Where there's a will, there's a way. Some restaurants are even using cooking oils like tallow, and you can use things like Seed Oil Scout in your local area to find restaurants that are using ancestrally appropriate fats. So, the next time you reach for that bottle of seed oils, just remember that the convenient choice is rarely the healthy choice. And often, easy choices create a hard life. But the harder choices, the one to be a bit more diligent about your food, creates an easier life. The easier life of health, happiness, and vibrancy. The life that we all want, the life that is right before us, if we choose to take it.